Oh, Porte, excuse me.
Yes,
It's
yes,
French.
yes. Online luxury retailer.
Very nice. So, Dr. Furlong, shopping online for luxury items. But she now serves as Grayling's Chief Human Resource Officer and is really helping to transform that agency. So we're very excited to have Carla joining us. And some of you got to meet her today at the luncheon, as well as doing some of the recruiting interviews. And then last but certainly not least, we have Alan Weatherby, and Alan is president of Weatherby Talent Group. And with Weatherby, it's a full-service executive recruitment service, and he's coming to us tonight from San Francisco. So we appreciate him joining us. Prior to that, and he still works very closely with them, but prior to that, he was a senior vice president for talent and search for Allison and Partners, which is a large agency headquartered on the West Coast too, correct? Are you out of Allison and Partners out of San Francisco as well, or California? No.
San Francisco, but 13 offices across the U.S.
Awesome. And so he is. He was in that role with Allison and Partners, and in addition to that, he worked as Human Resources Vice President for Home Communications here on the East Coast in Boston, and then also served as a Senior Agency Business Director for Recruitment in Southern California, also with, you're going to probably hear this theme because as Donna likes to say, she also helped to place some of these lovely gentlemen when she was working with CMG, but also with Gold and Weber, Shanwick, and Rogers and Cohen. And so I think between the 5 of you, the students will get a wide exposure to opportunities and public relations agencies. So at this point, I will turn it over to our panel. And thank you all again for joining us.
First off, thanks all for giving up part of your evening tonight to be with us. Let me start by asking you, what can we talk with you about? What are some of the burning questions that you have for us? Yes.
Well, I was speaking with Jessica today, but basically, can you kind of start off talking with what are the basics that you look for in people when you're hiring?
Brian.
Yes.
Hiring, Brian, you do a lot of that.
Right. I mean, I think it varies by level. I mean, I think what's most germane to this conversation is probably what we're looking for undergraduates and graduate students. I think for us, and I definitely want everybody else to chime in, I think a lot of it's experiential. I think a lot of it is, digitized journalism, digitized communications, but also, what kind of internships or, volunteer experience you may have in sort of a communications marketing capacity. These roles are evolving. Digital social is so big now. Are you volunteering for a nonprofit or something on campus where you're, the community manager for, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram? So I think that there's sort of a skill set we look for, strong writing, digital social skills, but also, if you have some substantive experience, internships, volunteer experience in a communications or marketing arena, we always love to see, a couple stints like that.
Before we go any further, how many of you are juniors or third-year undergrad students? Okay, seniors? Any of you graduate students? Okay, any of you below third year? Okay, just want to get a sense of the room to make sure that we address everyone's needs. Okay, I think that we all pretty much agree with Brian in terms of what we look for. With the overriding thing that we look for being smart, passionate, and a good writer, and curious. Those are the main things. Everything else will flow from those 4 points, or those 4 buckets. Everything else will just come under those headings. So give us someone who's smart, give us someone who's passionate, give us someone who's curious. And someone who's a good writer, we can help you become who you want to be in the business community. Next question. Carla, what do you want to ask the students?
So why did you choose a career in public relations, or why are you interested in pursuing PR?
Or what can we do to make you convinced that this is a career that you want to choose? What do you need to hear from us? So that you can go back to your dorms tonight and say, this is it, I want to work for a PR agency.
I'm sorry, I'm the only one talking.
That's not a bad thing in our industry.
Can you talk about the creative aspects to it? I'm in a PR writing class right now, and it's writing, and I'm still trying to find kind of the creative niche of how I can express myself through the writing that we're doing.
Alan, can you talk about some of the creative sides of the business, since you worked for both Rogers and Cowan, which is entertainment, and you worked for Cohen, which had cause, and then you worked for all the different agencies you worked for, just did all kinds of things. And creative doesn't just mean fun stuff. Creative can also mean getting a drug past FDA approval.
Right.
That's true. I think you know, within PR, there's certainly also a bucket these days, especially where there's the idea of visual storytelling, and creativity is going to come into play in that. And we're seeing a lot of candidates now that have writing and public relations skill set combined with some practical, and by practical I mean sometimes that means that you can list the Adobe suite as a skill set or software that you have expertise within. So that actually augments the skill set and can be very attractive right now as that idea of visual storytelling and digital marketing communications takes hold in the industry. But I think more broadly, creativity within public relations is around an instinct and a love of brainstorm and ideation, where you're trying to marry the goals of a brand or your client with sort of synthesizing that with your own thoughts about how to energize an audience, you know, a certain constituent or consumer, and that comes with, you know, really trying to be creative, but not just being creative for creative's sake, but being creative within an objective. So I think writing can be a place where that really does come through, and it allows you to reach an audience with compelling writing. And sometimes that audience in the business is going to be a journalist or an influencer who you're trying to reach to get interested in a story in order to get a placement or to get that earned hit for your client. So I think it's the notion of always thinking around around sort of the pop culture and what's going on in people's day-to-day lives and trends and certain things that you can spot, and then aligning your client's brand, you know, into that conversation. And that can be quite a creative endeavor, and it's a challenge as well. So I think a lot of people, like to Donna's point, you know, a curiosity and a passion fuels a lot of that creativity. And it's one of the selling points, I think, frankly, of our business, is that the business is constantly changing, but it's constantly asking for creativity from its professionals.
Well, just to piggyback on that, Alan, I mean, I think you'd agree that content is king right now, and there's just so much with regard to content-driven marketing, influencer marketing. I mean, the way that we did PR 10, 15 years ago really doesn't exist anymore. So whether you're a writer, whether you're a copywriter, an art director, whether you work in video, I mean, we have these integrated campaigns now where there's so many facets to it, offline, online, event activations, and I just think the very nature of the work is incredibly creative and crosses so many lines. So you may be a writer by trade, but you're also looking at this ecosystem of channels and how they work together.
And that space, I was going to say that landscape, that content space is where PR people are getting a seat at the table, just because of that ability to write creatively and to engage audiences.
Yes.
Sorry. What do you think is the best way to kind of get a feel for the differences in all of the different PR agencies? I mean, there's obviously a ton of agencies out there, and sometimes it's hard to really find where your best fit is. So, like, what kinds of questions do you think think that we should be asking as we enter into those conversations?
That is a fabulous question. And since we've all worked for more than one agency. Jessica, you want to try that one?
Yeah, I mean, every agency is a little bit different, and it's important for you to find the agency that works for you. Unfortunately, there's no magic way to do that. So you can do your research, and you can look on Glassdoor, and you can have informational conversations with people at different agencies. But I think it's figuring out what types of clients you want to work with, the industry and issues that you're interested in, the size of an organization that you want to work with or on, and then start targeting those agencies and having conversations. I think also definitely getting internship opportunities while you're still in school. So you can try out an agency and just talk to other people in the industry. And if everyone, or if many of you decide to go to an agency here, then talk to each other about your internships. What did you enjoy? What was exciting? What was exciting? But you're not gonna, you can't find out online exactly what it's like. You're gonna really have to have those conversations and start those experiences. And then what you're also gonna find is you may join an agency and work on some consumer clients, and there may be an opportunity for you to work on a healthcare client. You never thought you were interested in healthcare, but all of a sudden you're really passionate about healthcare issues. So also figuring out where you fit in at an agency and what makes sense. So I think it's going to take some time. I've enjoyed my experiences I've been technically at 3 agencies of different sizes. They're different types of people thrive, but you only figure that out by being there or talking to people who are there.
Strangely enough, it's almost like going to look at colleges. There's something about it when you walk onto a campus when it feels right. And what makes your stomach not hurt, you can't describe. And your parents are behind you saying, "What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" And you don't know what it is, but all of a sudden, I tell people it's the last turn of a Rubik's Cube. It's all of a sudden everything falls in. And when you're interviewing, if your stomach hurts, don't do it. There's something wrong. Trust your instincts. But it's kind of like when you walked onto a campus and you look around and just something about it says, these are the kind of people that I want to be with. When you go to the websites now are so robust, you can read some of their case studies. You can see how they want to present themselves to the world. Do they talk about what they do in their off time? Do they talk about how they volunteer to the world? Do they talk about more than just their senior leadership when they're giving profiles of the people who work there? If what's important to the agency is that important to you, when you find a place where those things align, that's when you know that you found a home. Be careful not to take a job because you want to work with a charismatic leader, because that leader tomorrow can quit or transfer someplace else. It needs to be the whole, it has to be the same as walking onto a campus. That all of a sudden, it's like the weight is off your shoulders, and you just know that it's right. And again, when you go to the website, look through every single section and make sure that the values are there. Because at the end of the day, it has to be that the values align with yours, because that's what your daily life is going to be like. More than the work, it's going to be the values that are going to resonate with you and what you talk about. So your
And Donna is absolutely right. And I'll just add one other thing. I think agencies are doing a great job with their own social content these days, and you can follow a handful of agencies or a list of agencies that you would like to get a sense of, and you will get a sense of their thought leadership, their culture, where they're heading, news and updates, and it's a really good way to get a feel, because Donna's exactly right. It's ultimately going to be a feel thing at the end when you finally decide, yes, this is the one for me, and they feel the same thing back. But that investigation process, following the trades and then following specific And by trades, I mean council and also PR week and other wires and other things where you can plug into the industry and really follow it closely. But also, connecting through and following on Instagram even for agencies, it gives you a total insight into their culture. They're doing a really good job of that, I would say.
Your question?
So obviously you guys see a wide range of candidates and applicants. What would you say is the biggest trend, I guess, of the people you hire, besides obviously the internship and community service experiences? What stands out to you guys?
Carla?
I think it's really the depth and breadth of their experiences and what you've done. We talked a lot earlier today about, big versus small. Do you go with an agency that you've heard of or one that's small? And we like to focus more on the what. What did you do while there? Not necessarily the companies or the clients that you had, but what was the work, what was the substance, and will those competencies transfer to what we're trying to accomplish within our agency? So I think it's not necessarily a trend, but we really are looking for the strengths, the pillars of your experience and how that's going to relate to us. Because every position that we hire for is going to be something different. So it's really the skills that you have and how they best meet for us and our needs.
Yes.
Hi, you guys mentioned earlier that the PR industry is really kind of shifting to pushing more for digital content and that online platform. So I was just wondering, how are your agencies kind of adapting to that change and making changes accordingly on your social platforms and things like that to kind of reach this audience?
Brian, you're doing a lot of that change.
Yeah, I think I'll start by talking about our campaigns. And just the open positions I work on. I have a creative ops position available, digital health. I've got, advertising, planning roles, art director roles. It just simply isn't your grandfather's PR agency anymore. And what we're finding is we are figuring out, where our capabilities are evolving and where we're taking market share away from other industries, right? So for example, social media, whether it's earned social or paid social, so your social advertising versus your sort of community management, that's huge right now. And especially paid social is really big right now. Influencer marketing is really big right now. So what we're doing is we're assembling teams to put together integrated programs for these clients, whether it's an Ocean Spray, a Bank of America, Verizon, what have you. So I think it kind of starts with where we saw the market going and where our clients are telling us they have needs, where we have, where we can sort of be more efficient. At the end of the day, we've always been storytellers, and these are just additional platforms to tell a story on, so it makes sense that it kind of starts and continues with the PR firms. But the capabilities are just really evolving, and I think, all of the recruiters on this panel can just tell you that we're not just recruiting for account supervisors of healthcare anymore. We're recruiting for folks that 100%, build websites, manage social properties, do paid social advertising. I've hired a lot of video producers. So really it's just this sort of integrated attempt at our industry and these agencies to provide more full service, to these clients, especially as the channels emerge. Who knows, how we're going to leverage Snapchat next, right? There's always something.
Jessica, how is your agency changed with that?
Yeah, I think, we use the word integrated communications, and that's going away because it's just communications. When we put together a strategy, just like Brian mentioned, it has all the components of, kind of the olden days PR. We put on events, we pitch the media, we write press releases, we do op-eds, but we're not just listening to what reporters are saying now. We're doing social listening online. We're listening to bloggers, we're listening to influencers online and trying to engage with them. So it has turned more into a conversation online where we're looking for folks who are experienced with social media and utilizing those channels, as well as, similar to what Brian mentioned, we're hiring web developers, video producers, we're doing advertising, we're doing search engine optimization, online reputation management, search engine marketing. You have to understand Google AdWords, you have to understand Facebook campaigns. you have to understand how to put together a full service campaign that includes the traditional, or what we consider traditional previously, and kind of the new age communications. And that's the only way that we're going to put together a campaign for a client that's successful. So I think something that we definitely look for in everyone we hire are the skill sets that you have in that space. So I've talked to a few people I've interviewed on campus today, and having WordPress experience and understanding the Adobe suite and understanding Final Cut Pro for video, those are all assets and attributes that we really look for as we continue to evolve and change in the industry.
Yes.
So you mentioned a lot about how the industry continues to change, and I'm wondering how is the best way for us as students and future employees, hopefully, to educate ourselves on the trends that are arising?
I mean, we're looking for innovators, and so people who are, curious about what's next. Not every new social media app or social media plan is going to come to fruition, but someone who's always curious about the next thing and understanding that, and just always wanting to learn. The second you stop learning, the second you get comfortable with the programs that you're using and how you're approaching a situation, is the second that you're lost. And so we're looking for that curiosity. We don't know what's going to be next. Like Brian mentioned, that what do we do with Snapchat? What are we going to do with Periscope? How are we going to handle all of it? They're all going to be part of our communication strategy. So continue to stay interested. Continue to stretch yourselves. Read more, learn about what could be next, and just educate yourself on those things. Having that curiosity, I think.
But always remember, without the proper foundation, knowing all of these other things is not going to have you put together a strategic campaign to take to this new media. You have to have the basics. You need to have that basic understanding of what is strategic, what is tactical, what is measurement. You have to have the foundation. That is what sets us apart from the mere chatter. So that when we do go to all of these new forms of social media, we're going there with a purpose. We're not just going there to chat. So start with the basics and then go from there. Someone on this, yes?
Okay, so as a graduate student, I can speak on one of our cohort. We have a wide array of backgrounds. And there's a student for law school, and I know we have just as many various academic careers among us. So I'm wondering then how we can best leverage these various experiential backgrounds to our advantage, especially going in not as undergraduate students.
The background that you have will so help you going forward in the practice areas where you work. My undergraduate and graduate degrees are in quantitative economic analysis. When I'm talking to someone in investor relations, I can talk to them about what financial analysis is. I can talk to them about what's going on in Wall Street. I can talk to them factually about what government regulations are, because I have that type of a strong foundation. It has given me more credibility in everything that I do than I can even begin to tell you. When I'm working with my human resources hat on, if I talk to someone about if statistic means anything by taking it to the second standard deviation, I get whatever I want because CEO's eyes glaze half the time. Because I know how to sample and I know how to survey. I can usually get funding for whatever project I want to do. So there are fundamentals that you need to have to take with you. If you are a science major and you want to go into healthcare, you're going to have such an easier time understanding what goes into FDA approval or what goes into a new delivery system for a drug. You'll have an easier time if you want to work in nutraceuticals. There's a new law coming out now about how they're going to have to do packaging labels on food that is going to change how we package and buy food in supermarkets. So people with nutrition degrees are going to be looked upon to enter public relations so that we can get our piece of that. So yes, having a public relations degree is really important, but having a concentration or an interest in something else to go along with it is very, very important. And when you just mentioned law, one of the lectures I've been giving for 15 years is the comparison between public relations and law. In the sense that in both, writing skills are what make you successful. In both, you write in a tone and style that are not your own. In both, if you cannot write, you will not be successful. In both, you are influencing the influencer. In public relations, we don't go directly to the public. We go to the person who will go to the public. In law, you're going to the judge who is going to instruct the jury on how they're going to vote. In law, you stand up and you do the pleading along with your client. In public relations, you speak for your client. The similarities in the two are so incredibly close. And the good thing is that our degree costs $250,000 less. And our career opportunities are a lot better.
And just to, on Donna's point, if you are interested in law and that's something that's interesting to you, look at agencies that provide an opportunity to work with clients that are going through litigation or lawsuits. So there's a lot of crisis communications out there where companies, and it's helpful to have someone that understands the law to be credible with the client from day one. And so if you have that interest, that's a great place for you to be, and that may be a great direction in communications to go. I work for MSL Group, but I also work for Caxton Company, which is in New York, and we do financial communications as well as crisis communications. It's a lot of product recalls, unexpected executive leadership change, litigation lawsuits, shareholder relations, stakeholder relations. So if you're interested in those sorts of things, find an agency that matches that and look for people with similar backgrounds to you. So go on LinkedIn and instead of searching a company, search for someone like you or who you want to be, and then pursue where they are, and that can be helpful as well.
And there are firms that also have law firms as clients, so you'd be an amazingly credible lead having that background as well.
But by the same token, if you majored in fashion and then you decide to go to public relations, you can represent everything from multi-stores, department stores to individual designers. So no matter what your interest is, you can use it in public relations. Yes?
My question is kind of like a follow-up to hers. Is that because you guys are talking about concentrating in one specific areas of communications. However, I think working for PR agencies, you're working for different industries at the same time. So how do you value those applicants who have specific concentration and who are super versatile to various industries?
Alan, do you feel versatile?
Yeah, you said there the volume or the sound quality has been rough the last minute or two.
Okay,
But I believe the question is around versatility.
Yes.
Maybe versus being super niche in a certain arena. So I guess the long answer is that within an agency environment, I hear this so often from people when I talk to them about their career backgrounds, and they say the term, I became an expert in. And that's something that I think is critical to successful public relations practitioners, is because you'll be influencing the influencer, you need to become an expert, and you need to have mastery of whatever vertical you're working on, and what the client's business is that you have to be servicing in that marketplace, as well as their own brand and their own mission and goals. But I would say, for my taste, I do like somebody who is focused and who does understand or has a good understanding of where they'd like to be generally. Meaning they know that they are interested in consumer public relations versus crisis communications. Because you'll see a lot of the agencies are, even though there's a lot of integration, they're still kind of demarked by certain practice areas. It's not considered kind of a core deliverable, although that is, as we've been mentioning, always evolving and changing. But I would say, within that larger bucket, to be free and open and excited about lots of different things and not be too heavily niched is probably ideal. Because an agency is always under some kind of variation of change, and are always seeking new clients and servicing existing clients, and some of those existing clients may go on to other agencies. And it's a very changing environment and landscape. So we do value some diversity of interests and skills. That would be my only answer to your question, and I hope I answered it appropriately because I didn't quite hear the full question.
Yes.
There are a lot of things about agency work that stand out to me and make me want to pursue agency life, but frankly, the one thing that makes me really nervous is the work-life balance, because I've heard that it can be quite tough sometimes to have a life and also have a job. I don't want to have to eat dinner at work every night. And I just want to know your perspective. Do you think that you can achieve it, or do you think that people tend to be overworked in the agency field, or what have you seen?
Carla?
Well, I think that varies by agency. At Grayling, it's immensely important that you have a work-life balance, because if you don't have balance in that, then you're not going to be good at work, and you're not going to be able to delight and excite your clients. And so at our agency, we have unlimited vacation time, because it's really important to us that once you are... Stop saying that. I'll say it again. We have unlimited vacation time. So it's really important that you have an opportunity to go and recharge your battery so that you can come back and ideate and be able to deliver the best as possible. And so, but I know that that's not the case at all agencies. And, I too have heard the horror stories about the long nights and stuff. Now, there's always going to be an instance where you're going to have to put the time in. But, the norm for us is that you're able to effectively manage your home and work life so that you can come and deliver and still maintain some semblance of personal life.
Statistically, it's been proven that companies that have unlimited vacation, the people who work there take less time than those people who have more than unlimited days.
I mean, when it comes down to it, we work for our clients. And our clients are typically coming to us because they need our help, and you never know when that's going to happen. So I do think it ebbs and flows. Some days are more manageable and everyone's fine, and you're just, doing what you're normally doing. But some days you're putting out fires, and that fire could come at 8 o'clock at night or on a weekend. So I think it does vary. We are also, we push for work-life balance, and we want to make sure that you're happy at home, so you're also happy at work. But again, in a world where your clients are kind of the most important thing, sometimes you have to work longer hours, and it's an industry. I feel in-house is probably less like that. If you go in-house and work like for one company, but agency life can be a little bit more demanding. I don't know, what do you guys think?
My honest answer to this, it depends upon who you work for. A lot of agencies that are owned by a sole practitioner, people who own the agencies, and I'm sorry if this sounds really harsh, but I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of people who own the agencies don't have a life, and they don't want anyone else to go home until they go home. And I know this sounds really mean, but there are a lot of people in business who want you there because they're there because they have nothing else to do. And I don't care if it's in a law firm, or if it's a CPA firm, or if it's a PR agency. They're going to keep you there because they're there. And if you want to move up in the organization, you're going to stay there. And you need to find that out and sniff it out and keep away from those people because they're toxic. There are agencies that are understaffed because that's the only way they're going to make their margins. There are department stores that are understaffed because that's how they make their margins. There are law firms that are understaffed because that's how they make their margins. So it's not just our industry. There are a lot of businesses that make their margins on the back of their junior workers. That's the nature of business. You need to look into that and you need to decide what's important to you. That's a personal decision we all have to make. You can say you're going to go into education and then you're going to find out you have so many papers to correct that you're putting in 24/7. These are things that you really need to look at. But there really are some people that want you in the office as long as they're there. And there really are companies that have 40% turnover, but it's really 80% turnover of the bottom third of their staff because they make the junior people churn, because to them the junior people are disposable. And again, I know it sounds harsh and I'm sorry, but it's really disgraceful and it's something that you need to be aware of. Don't think it's just our industry. Like I said, it happens in law firms, it happens in the consulting firms. Look at the junior consultants. They're on the road 100% of the time. And in 2 years, they burn out. It happens at hedge funds. These things happen. Just be aware of it and know what's important to you. And if you don't want to be caught up in that, look at what the real numbers are and keep away, because it's not going to change because you joined it. And there's nothing wrong, and you're not giving up your chance to be successful because you put a line in the sand and you say, I'm not staying till 9 o'clock because you want me to stay. Just know that there are certain environments where you just won't be successful. Just avoid those environments. Find another environment.
I think Alan wanted to add something.
Sure.
I want to say, in the interest of being practical and actually offering some real advice, John is absolutely right, and you need to investigate and understand these cultures of different agencies that you might be applying to. But we are in the client service business, and I will say, as a practical piece of advice, not to use that question within the interview process. How is work-life balance, things like that. We'll typically be told about, about sort of their general take on balance. You'll be told about benefits such as unlimited vacation days, Friday hours over the summer, lots of perks that are put in place to combat the client service element of our business, comp days, etc. But I will say that the fiber of the person that a lot of agencies are looking for are the type that are understanding that it's a client service industry, that it is a career, it's not a 9-to-5 job. And I'll caution you about, just from a practical perspective, a candidate who chooses to ask their 1 or 2 questions at the end of the interview about work-life balance and how many vacation days do I get, you get put into a different bucket than a person that asks, how can I best contribute from day one? How could I utilize this certain skill set to add value to a client? Certain questions like that. So while it's a great question in this form, I just thought I'd jump in and in the interest of being real, throw that out. I'm not sure if everyone else would agree with me, but
well, just to piggyback on that, I mean, I think that there's such a great alumni network for Syracuse that work at a lot of these agencies. I think, within 10 or 15 networking calls, everyone in the audience here could probably get a pretty good take at most agencies and most offices out there. I have found most of the more sort of sweatshop agencies to be, quite notorious. And Alan, I think you and I probably know a few at the top of our mind here in Boston. But I think that each agency has a reputation. It's not that hard to figure that out. It's just some well-placed networking calls. I think you'll get a pretty good understanding of, sort of the perception and how these agencies, are doing, and do they have a lot of turnover? Like, you can figure that out for sure.
Yes.
As a graduate student, I know that our class has almost half of us as international students.
And as recruiters, I just want to know, how do you perceive students who are like, because all of us might have a limited work permit kind of for a period of like 13 months and 14 months. So if we, after graduation, try to apply, how do recruiters perceive?
Okay, who wants to break our heart?
I mean, it's difficult. And we had this conversation earlier today, or maybe it was last night. It's hard. If we hire someone who has a work or a visa, student visa for a year, we have to apply for your H-1B. If you don't get your H-1B, then you can't work at the company anymore. So we're rolling the dice and taking a chance. It is more difficult. If you're looking at global agencies with, maybe an office in your hometown where you can legally work there for a year, and then you can do a work transfer to the U.S. that way with, I think it's called a J-1. But it is difficult to hire folks without visas, and that's a lot. Sometimes the conversation ends there in the interview process, honestly, just because there's so many applicants. That's my experience. Anyone else?
Brian, help.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the specialized skills of the candidate. If we're talking about a web developer, that might be a different conversation than, someone with more general PR skills. Recruiting for the Access Agency, it's a Hispanic multicultural advertising firm. Literally, the GM and president's preference is for folks who were born in a country other than the United States. So we work with this all the time, but it's very nuanced, right? Because we are reaching, by and large, U.S. Hispanic stakeholders and consumers. So we want folks who speak the language fluently, have a cultural, identity and background to those folks. So, I think that there are opportunities there, but I think you need to be creative about finding the firms that, would really leverage your background and skill set.
I have a question, just like, this is sort of getting ahead of myself, but it's something like I've always wondered. In PR, it's like a really young person's industry, and like I always hear so much about people like switching agencies all the time and going to different positions, and obviously like for more pay or for a higher title, I understand that. But I guess what I'm asking is like, what is like the general goal in this career? Like, what are people trying to accomplish? Because there's like one person who runs the agency, or there's one CEO at a company. So what are people trying to accomplish?
PR, the structure of public relations historically was the pyramid shape. So you're going to have thought leaders, and then you're going to have a lot of people being the arms and legs, doing the execution. If you look at the earnings have been a J shape. So you're going to start here, but then when the salary goes up, it goes up. Public relations, the way that we pay people and promote people, it's almost like being in school, because you get a promotion and a raise just about every year for your first 7 years. So you're talking about really quick rewards. You come in as an assistant account executive, account coordinator, whatever the title is. A year, 2 years, you're an account executive. A year or 2 years, you're a senior account executive. A year or 2 years, you're an account supervisor. A year or 2 years, you're a senior account supervisor. A year or 2 years, you're just below a vice president, account director, account manager. 7 to 10 years, you're a vice president. That is a really quick trajectory. People used to change jobs all the time to get the promotions and get the raise. That's not as frequent anymore. For a number of different reasons, we can talk about that offline because it's a really complex change in how people think. But people, like I said, it's kind of like going from, you change schools after 6 years, and then after 3 years, then after 4 years, and then after 4 years. So people see a lot of changes. People drop out of the industry. In order to keep that pyramid going, you're going to have people drop out of the industry. Simply because, where are they going to go? Here comes the funnel. It's a heavily female industry. And we are an industry of women that are really smart. The industry is heavily women in the agency side. we're really smart, we're really creative, we're really manipulative, and we marry really well. Look, you asked me a question, I'm going to tell you the answer. And a lot of us opt out for the mommy trap. A lot of us opt out because we decide to move outside of one of the major cities so that there aren't the agency jobs. A lot of us opt out to go into other industries. A lot of us opt out to work independently. So there are a number of reasons for us to leave. But if you look at the number of women who hit the vice president's level, percentage-wise in public relations, compared to men in any other industry, our numbers are phenomenal. If you look at the number of women who hold high-level positions in public relations, the numbers are really, really strong. 10 years ago, the number of women who broke through the glass ceiling in public relations was one of the highest in any industry out there. Advertising got sick, like rabid dog for discrimination, for not having enough women in high-ranking positions. Public relations, they didn't touch us, because we really do pretty well. And again, it's not saying that there's not major room for improvement, and everything else under the sun. There is. But we do pretty well across the board. So, there's a lot of talk now that the structure of how we do business in public relations is changing. People want more and more senior counsel. So it's going to become more of an I-shaped formulation. So you're going to have more senior counsel, narrower in the center, and then more arms and legs to just execute. So who knows what it's going to look like going forward. But on the whole, it's really a good industry to work in. Within 10 years, your chances of being a legitimate vice president and making over $100,000 a year are good. And if you look at the number of what we do to get there, it's pretty fair. It really is. So it's a good place to be. And plus that, it's really incredibly interesting. The most amazing thing about public relations is we tell major corporations what to do, and they do it. You have no idea how incredibly good that feels. You tell a company to do something, and they say, yeah. Like, you go back into your office, and you're like, huh? And they do it. It's awesome. Anyone else have any comments about that? Carla, what do you think?
No, I agree with you. Again, this is my 8th month into this, and I'm just amazed at what I see. And I laugh, I tell our CEO, I'm like, there you go, PRing me again, because you'll tell me something that I don't believe, and by the end of my conversation, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And so it's just really amazing the impact and the influence that PR professionals have on major corporations. I've seen it on the business side, in-house, and now I'm seeing it at an agency. It's remarkable. It's an amazing career, amazing industry, which is why I decided to join.
I just wanted to comment on, people do change agencies though, and they change agencies for a number of reasons, but it could be to work with a different type of client, or work within a different industry, and maybe you're only able to work with one type of client where you are, and there's nowhere for you to go, so you need to move to another agency. Some agencies are very siloed, where you're hired into a practice area and you stay in that practice area. Some agencies you're able to be a generalist and work across a variety of practice areas. So you're just gonna need to, kind of look and learn about the agencies. But I see when people leave to go to a competitor, they've usually been poached by one of us, and we recruited them away, or they're interested in working with a different type of client or with an agency that focuses on a particular type of client, because through their 3 years at one agency, they realize that they really want to work with this type of client, and there aren't many at that agency. So that's why some people move around to work with different clients outside of the promotion, the title, the money. I think it's making sure that you're working within an industry and on issues and clients that you're interested in. And sometimes you do have to move to do that.
and the competition for talent is immense, particularly in major metropolitan areas, New York, San Francisco. I mean, there are just so many agencies, and there's a talent deficit. And so if you're really good, I mean, you are going to get poached.
Yeah.
And you'll get a call at the very junior level. You'll receive 2 or 3 calls, on a weekly basis. And so for some individuals, it's really tempting. And so, the reality is people are going to go.
Yeah.
And, we're trying to manage the expectations of our leaders and say it's going to be about 18 months, at the junior level.
Any comments, guys?
I was just going to say too, one of the thoughts I had was around the idea of like that, meaning like what are you striving for over time? And I'd say like what you're really striving for is evolution of your own skill set and how you can contribute and what you're learning and how you're developing. But then also I think over time it's around getting more and more opportunities to lead. So I think people also need current leaders to progress through their career path within public relations. And I think that's what you get. You get to then give back and provide leadership not only on clients and creating PR programs, but on developing people and on teaching the next generation of practitioners too. So, and that's just one aspect of where you can evolve and where you can head, within the profession. So there's definitely lots of different avenues and lots of different ways. And it's not about and the system is almost corrected itself, so it can't be about you just want to lead to get a title jump and more pay. It's much more nuanced than that. It's much more individualized than that. And that's where some recruiters and HR people do a really good job of trying to figure out, can help you in figuring out that next step if you find yourself at the place where you want to make a move.
I think we're running a little bit late on time. A couple of more questions, and I'll just ask everyone to give a piece of advice. Yes.
I have a more general question about applying to jobs. So I know the best way to get your foot in the door is networking, but is it worthwhile at all to do online job applications, or is that just a waste of time?
100%.
Worthwhile.
Absolutely. My favorite story to tell someone is that it can take you so long to network, or you can network with someone who's the executive vice president, but that person's traveling. By the time that they come back and tell me how awesome you are, I could have had the job filled already from someone online. So always cover all of your bases. So.
Totally. It can't be an either or, it has to be both and. You have to cast the widest net possible so that somebody can fish you, if you will. So yeah, don't ever forego the online submission. We think that it goes into this black hole, but most times they do get read. So definitely you don't want to exclude anything.
Thank you.
This is me, my piece of advice later, so.
Yes.
Donna, hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm not an applicant, but I'll ask a question that sometimes students aren't aware of, and maybe your agencies have different approaches. You talk many times about the importance of writing. Talk about, if you would, about what you look for, send us samples with the application or writing tests that may be a part of your process.
Okay, first off, they're supposed to be writing exercises, not writing tests, because they haven't been validated. And it's going to be the bane of my existence, trying to tell everyone that they're writing exercises.
Okay.
People will ask for an example of how you write. Clear, concise, something. If they ask you for an example of how you write, give them something that you think represents you. Because if that's how you write, let them see how it is and let it be you. If they call you into the office and they say to you, here's a sheet, come up with something, you do it. It's companies feel the need to see how you operate under pressure. It is part of an interviewing process. It's supposed to be part of the process, not a make or break. They're kidding you, it's a make or break. Do as good a job on it as you possibly can. What else can we say?
That's it. There's also proofreading.
Yeah, flawless writing is what we're looking for. We're not looking, you've reread and we do writing assignments. We also do editing tests. because there's 25 mistakes, I can grade you on that. But just, we're looking for people who understand how to write AP style and that reread their work. And that's like not just in a writing test, that's in your email communication with me. If I'm emailing with someone I want to interview and there's typos, I will stop emailing with you and we're not interviewing anymore. So in every communication with the recruiter, with the hiring manager, make sure it's just flawless, you reread it and you're thoughtful in how you communicate. Because a lot of the communication you'll do with clients is over email and this is your first test in communication.
Oh, and by the way, if you have a junk mail filter, turn it off. Because if you tell me, oh gee, I'm sorry, but your email to me got stuck in my junk mail and it's been 2 weeks, is it too late? My answer is going to be, if I had the courtesy to read every piece of email that comes into mine, have the same courtesy to me. Sorry.
Some of the assessments may have a deadline. Don't miss the deadline. It's really important. So if it's due Friday at 5:30, you should have it, Friday at 4, just to make sure you don't want to be late.
One more question and then we'll just keep going. Okay, 2, go for it, guys. That was simultaneous, so let's do it.
My minor is in startups, so I look at how students start businesses in colleges become increasingly prominent. So my question is, first, do you see a person who tries to start a business in college as valid and still something that is a good experience? And also, in the progression of being a PR pro in this career, like what skills do you gain that can help you start your own business on the side, like while you work for other people?
Yeah, because we already talked about it.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great experience and it's relevant experience. I mean, a lot of the work that we do, here specifically in Boston, is with, high growth startups, innovation district, what's going on at Harvard, MIT. So I think if you're already, opting into that kind of environment and that type of experience, that lends itself really well to work on those kinds of clients. I think we were talking earlier, with a student that maybe would be interested in litigation support, right? Like this could be your niche. Maybe working with an agency that does a lot of work with startups. So I definitely think it's relevant, and I think it gives you a step ahead of other students that don't have that experience at the same level. So I definitely think it's a huge advantage. Not to mention, everybody will say entrepreneurial 9,000 times in your PR career, and I think the very nature of startup is entrepreneurial.
Your question?
My question is, are there any chances to work like internationally? If the answer is yes, like how can employees ask for that opportunity to work internationally?
Yes, I mean, at global companies, there definitely are. We have 100 offices in 22 countries, so there's an opportunity to work internationally. Now, you have to prove yourself in the client work that you're doing initially and kind of earn that opportunity to go abroad, but definitely there's opportunities to work for a short period of time or a long period of time. Right now, I'm hiring someone to work in Germany, Berlin, France, and Fiji, if anyone's interested. So yes, there's definitely opportunities to do that.
Okay, if everyone's okay with it, just a piece of advice. Alan, piece of advice to the students?
Piece of advice to the students. Well, I think you're all on the right track by being in this room. Be engaged, be committed, be focused, and also be yourselves. I think through any process, and you'll find that career home that you're craving. And suss it out through internships. Don't come out with your degree starting from scratch. Get a head start.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, I think for me, I always reflect upon, my days at Syracuse and the tools that I had, for a job search, and it consisted of, a phone and letters and these big, phone book directories. I mean, you guys have it so much easier now, but I think that it also means that the competition is that much more fierce, right? Like we've talked about online applications, like you can certainly do that, but it's what everybody's gonna do. So do the things that set yourself apart. I would recommend starting a Google Doc, tracking companies on social media, making notes in that document, jumping on LinkedIn, finding Syracuse alumni at the organizations that you're interested in, building those relationships, and just really be informed. You may only have one chance at a phone interview or an informational meeting with some of these companies, so there's really no excuse not to be well informed, and just tailor your approach to these companies. The emails that you send, the thank you notes that you send, the questions that you ask. We can smell the copy and paste stuff from a mile away, and it's a little bit of a turnoff. When you're sitting down with someone, mention something about their background, mention something about the clients that they've worked on. If they, worked on Wall Street and now they're at a PR firm, wouldn't you want to know why, right? So, just be curious, be informed, and just network, really network.
Jessica, thank you so much for your 2 days here.
Yeah. And I think, and I've mentioned this a number of times, it's quality over quantity. And I know you mentioned, apply online. Sure, but I know you need to cast a wide net, but don't apply to 20 agencies. Pick the 5 agencies that you're really interested in, and then find someone within that network. Find someone that went to Syracuse. Find someone that has a common, interest with you on LinkedIn, and connect with that person. Build a relationship and focus on really getting into the agency that you want. And that's what's going to stand out. If you figure out my email address, other than getting my business card, and you can get into my inbox, there is a better chance that I'm going to read your resume and have an informational conversation with you than if you just apply online through our applicant tracking system. So getting into the inbox of the person that you want to talk to. Don't be too persistent. Use common sense, but really look at quality over quantity and pick the agencies you want to work at and go for it.
Yeah, and fortune favors the bold. I cold contacted my first agency, just emailed the GM, and they created a position for me, guys. So, you got to have your stuff together. I wouldn't just do that and expect magic to happen, but fortune favors the bold.
Carla?
I'd suggest that for those of you that have graduated, be willing to consider internships beyond graduation. Because for us, that's if you come and perform well during your internship, that's how you're going to get
internship.
Paid internship, absolutely. That's how you'll get hired for us in an entry level as an AC or an account coordinator, is to have that internship for 90 days. And that may be a little non-traditional, and you're like, I want to only have internship while I'm an undergrad, but be willing to consider alternate routes to your same destination.
Okay. If anyone has any questions, I'm horrible to get on the phone because I'm never in the office. My email is DRENELLA @DONNARENELLA.com. In other words, DRenella@DonnaRenella.com. If you email me a question, I might take a week, but I absolutely will answer. Please feel free to use me as a resource.
And we do have reception afterwards, so just above us on the 2 floors up on the 3rd floor, and where the Newhouse lobby is, we'll be up there for reception, so you can chat for a little bit. But I know ladies also probably, after traveling all day, may not want a reception too long. But we do have little gift bags for each of you, and we have them coming to you guys.
They're virtual, guys. You have to jump through the screen like on virtual.
So you will get it very soon. So let's get our online. And then we'll retire upstairs. Thank you so much, and your shirts are on the way.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.